Archangel Michael says your breath is the key that unlocks your courage, so inhale slowly now, hold it, and feel your ribs widen like a shield forming around your heart. He says the countdown is not meant to scare you but to focus you, to sharpen your awareness to a single point of unbreakable clarity. He says a door inside you is swinging open, and behind it stands your real voice, steady and bright. The hallway outside your mind's courtroom is long and hushed, like a museum where every step echoes your name. You can see the woman you once trusted, fingers tight around a folder, the hinge squeaking as truth and untruth rub against each other. You know the scent of that paper even from here, a dry, papery wind that tries to parch your throat. She walks with a certainty borrowed from fear, not from faith, and that borrowed certainty is already running late. Her shoes tick like a metronome counting down the story she wants to conduct, but her rhythm wobbles when you square your shoulders. Power shifts in silence before it ever shifts in sound, and it is shifting now. Do not rush your spirit even as the seconds fall, move with deliberate grace the way a lighthouse turns in storm. Your pace is your protection, your phrasing is your armor, and your memory is the oath that you refuse to break. The papers are loud only when your heart is quiet. Let your heart speak and the papers will rustle like leaves. You remember the first time she praised you in a tone that felt a half step too sweet, like tea with too much sugar hiding something bitter. You remember the small requests that became larger expectations, a staircase assembled from favors you never owed. You remember telling yourself kindness is strength, and you were right, but you also know that boundaries are kindness wearing boots. Every courtroom starts long before the gavel, and yours began with the moment you ignored the tug in your chest. You told yourself it was nothing because you wanted peace more than proof, but peace is not silence, peace is truthful sound. Today you choose truthful sound. Listen to this sound rising in you now, crisp like early morning air after rain. It says you are not here to attack, you are here to align. It says the light on your face did not arrive to argue but to reveal. The angel stands by your left shoulder, and the room brightens at the edges as if the walls remembered the sun. He lays a hand upon your spine, and your posture becomes a flag raised at dawn. Your name is spoken in heaven like a promise kept, and that promise is being delivered step by step. You feel the weight of her folder trying to define you, like a dictionary choosing your meaning without your consent. But a living person cannot be defined by a page, and a living truth cannot be trapped in a paragraph. You are a library of moments, and most of them are kinder than you have admitted. In your memory, a small scene flickers, the time you apologized first even when you were not wrong. Another scene, the message you did not send because you chose to sleep instead of spiral. Another, the day you sat in your parked car until your breathing found you again, and then you walked inside with gentleness. These are exhibits of character more powerful than any exhibit number stamped in ink. These are declarations that rise without permission slips. These are witnesses who speak through poise. The angel guides your attention to the side mirror of your mind where fear often appears. Fear is there, yes, but fear is smaller than it sounds when it knocks. When you open the door slightly and look plainly, you see a child in an oversized coat practicing a grown-up voice. Treat your fear like that child, with firmness and mercy. Tell it you have heard enough to understand and not enough to be moved. Tell it to sit in the back row and watch you stand up. Your voice does not need to shout, it needs to be exact. Exactness is a lamp with a narrow beam, showing one step ahead without apology. Exactness makes the fog uninteresting. You will speak in statements that are anchored rather than floating. You will let silence do some of the heavy lifting between your words. You will allow your facial muscles to rest so your eyes can carry the clarity. The filing she carries may be titled with phrases designed to bruise, but a bruise is not proof of a broken bone. Pain can be real and still be misdescribed, hurt can exist and still be misassigned. You will not argue with pain, you will relocate it. Relocating pain is holy work because it returns each feeling to its rightful owner. You do not decorate your soul with blame that isn't yours anymore. You sweep your front step and leave the rest where it lies. The angel shows you a narrow bridge that leads from this moment to the next. Under the bridge runs a river of rumors, looking up with impatient splashes. The bridge holds because you walk it with even steps, and the river gets bored with your balance. Her strategy depends on unbalancing you at the opening chord. She wants your first sentence to fracture so that her pages sound like planks on a dock. You will not give her the sound she rehearsed against. You choose the rhythm of the steady bell that rings over a harbor at night. You choose sentences that return to themselves like waves that know their coastline. You choose the dignity of clear weather, even if the forecast predicts hail. The judge's bench inside your mind rises from oak you planted in patience. The walls are lined with your values in frames that match. The ceiling is high enough to hold the kind of hope that doesn't bump its head. In this interior court, you refuse to prosecute yourself for being human. You refuse to defend yourself against lies as if they were equal to life. You simply present the record by living it out loud. You hold in your hands not a folder but a compass. It points toward your true north, which is integrity, not victory. When integrity leads, victory follows in whatever shape will do the least damage. You could name every betrayal like you were reading road signs down a long highway, but you do not need to travel that far. You stop at the station called Boundaries and step off the bus. You drink water, straighten your collar, and choose your next destination with intention. When you stand, the room knows. The air thins to make way for your breath. The clock yields a few extra beats because courage owns time differently. The angel whispers that justice begins in the mouth with accuracy. Your mouth is ready because your heart is ordered. Your heart is ordered because you put truth in front and fear behind. Think of the friends who would sign your character if character required signatures. Think of the elders who saw your small good deeds without cameras. Think of the child who used to bear your name with bright curiosity and still does. When you speak, your first line will be simple and whole. You will say what happened without flavoring it for applause or pity. You will let the quiet sit afterward like a trusted witness. If she interrupts, you will breathe once and continue. If she smirks, you will blink once and continue. If she yields, you will nod once and continue. Your words will tilt the room back to level, as if the floor had been slightly slanted and no one noticed until now. Your presence will file a counter-document without ink, one that cannot be stamped yet already feels official. Your calm will ask the only question that matters, and your life will answer it with the facts you carry in your bones. Remember the difference between story and script. Her pages are a script that expects you to hit the marks she taped on the floor. Your life is a story that moves the tape. In your mind, draw a circle of light at your feet, a space of immunity where manipulation evaporates. That circle travels with you into the hallway, into the courtroom, into any room that thinks it's bigger than your soul. The circle says your value does not trend and your worth does not wobble. The angel teaches you a sentence to keep in your pocket like a smooth stone. What is true will remain, what is untrue will unravel. You do not have to tug the threads, time and truth will do their own patient work. If a signature was forged in implication, it will fade under steady witness. If a rumor was laminated with repetition, it will peel at the corners in light. If a narrative was stitched with fear, it will come apart at the seams when peace walks by. Your task is not to win an argument, but to inhabit the truth so fully that arguments lose their appetite. Your task is not to punish, but to refuse the punishment of becoming what you are not. Your task is not to predict, but to proceed. Proceed now into the scene that once frightened you from a distance. Notice how distance made it taller, closeness makes it ordinary. Notice how ordinary things shrink when purpose arrives. She may read from her folder with a voice that has borrowed confidence. Borrowed things must be returned, and the due date is today. When the confidence is returned, only the content remains, and content without courage limps. You will not rehearse her name, because names are powerful and you reserve that power for blessing. You will not rehearse her wounds to justify yourself, because you refuse to turn pain into currency. You will not rehearse the worst outcomes, because your imagination works under the authority of hope now. Instead, you rehearse your clarity, room, table, chair, breath. You rehearse your posture, spine like a wand of light, shoulders unhooked, jaw unclenched. You rehearse your kindness to yourself. No scolding, no shame, just steady correction toward truth. When you feel heat rising in your neck, greet it as energy arriving to help. When you feel your hands tremble, thank them for the electricity of being alive. When you feel your heart thump like a hammer, recognize a house being built. The angel places 3 tools on the table of your attention. The first is perspective, which keeps small things small and big things big. The second is patience, which slows chaos to a readable speed. The third is precision, which chooses the right word the way a surgeon chooses an instrument. Precision is love for reality. Precision is the opposite of dramatization pretending to be courage. You step into your role as caretaker of your own narrative. That role is not flamboyant, it is faithful. Faithfulness makes noise only when necessary. An usher opens an inner door and everything smells like pages and polish. The fluorescent lights cannot dull the honest shine on your face. You take your seat with deliberate gentleness, and even the chair seems relieved. Now the moment arrives that once dressed itself up as catastrophe. It shows up in work clothes, expecting overtime, but you send it home on schedule. You look down at your hands and discover they are steady. Your opening statement is the kind that fits in one breath and holds for a lifetime. You say what you need to say, not what your anxiety rehearsed at midnight. You stop when you've said enough, neither defending nor decorating. In that stopping, a hush spreads like a clean sheet pulled tight across a bed. The hush invites honesty to settle, wrinkle-free. The hush lets reality align. If tears come, they will be clean tears that water the ground where your new life grows. If no tears come, your eyes will still glisten with decision. Either way, you are not weak, you are well. The angel smiles because the countdown is over and you did not panic. The clock becomes a circle, and circles do not end. They transit. You have crossed from dread to direction. Outside, the sky holds its blue like a promise it knows how to keep. Inside, you hold your center with the same quiet certainty. Gravity now works for you. Whatever papers she brought, they cannot hire your soul to lie about itself. Whatever story she rehearsed, it cannot compel your destiny to act in it. Whatever verdict is written on paper will never be more binding than the verdict written on your heart. Your heart's verdict is simple and solid: you remain yourself. You remain a guardian of truth who uses words like keys instead of knives. You remain a witness to the miracle of not collapsing. When decision time comes, you will still be upright. When questions are asked, you will answer with the dignity of weathered wood. When silence falls again, it will be a friend, not a threat. The woman you trusted once is still a person, not a symbol, and you know this. That knowledge protects you from the poison of contempt. You choose firm boundaries without scorched earth. You step from the room not lighter because everything vanished, but stronger because you did not. You carry yourself down the same hallway that once felt like a tunnel. It feels like a corridor now, lined with windows. The angel walks with you toward the doors that open to ordinary daylight. Ordinary daylight is a kind of miracle hidden in plain sight. You step into it like someone who has learned, at last, the difference between peace and quiet. As you move forward, the story changes shape around you. It learns your pace and loses its appetite for chasing you. It learns your name and stops trying to rename you. Your voice remains accessible to you, not because no one ever tried to stifle it, but because you chose to keep it. Your truth remains vivid, not because it never faced contest, but because it stood still enough to be seen. Your future remains yours, not because it was granted, but because you accepted the task of carrying it. And now, the last instruction: keep the circle of light with you. Keep the tools on your table where you can reach them even with your eyes closed. Keep your mouth available for accuracy and your heart available for mercy. In evenings to come, you will feel a faint echo of today's hallway, but it will not frighten you. You will nod at the echo the way a sailor nods at a wave. You will go on with the business of being whole. Archangel Michael says your story is not ending, it is maturing into the octave where truth sings without strain. He says your courage did not magically appear, it answered your own invitation. He says the door you open today will remain open, and you will walk through again and again with steady steps. File this day under kept promises in the archive of your spirit. Place a ribbon through it if you want to find it easily. Not because you need to reread the pain, but because you may want to revisit the proof. When you speak tomorrow, you will hear how clear your voice has become. When you write tomorrow, you will see how clean your lines have grown. When you rest tonight, you will feel how deeply your bed knows your name. Let the woman keep whatever does not belong to you anymore, her tactics, her titles, her borrowed confidence. Let the court keep whatever is paper's job to carry. You keep yourself. And if the world asks what you did today, you will not perform the story like a play. You will simply be the person who learned to stand while being pushed. You will simply be. With that, the countdown has converted into a cadence, and the cadence is yours. Your breath is the drum that sets it. Your steps are the melody that follows. Walk on in the daylight you earned by telling the truth without theatrics. Walk on with the tenderness that survived misunderstanding. Walk on with the knowing that no folder can fold you. The angel nods once more, and a thin golden line appears beneath your feet like a path drawing itself toward open sky. You do not chase it, you accompany it. It does not hurry you, it harmonizes you. Your name is safe. Your voice is safe. Your future is safe. The door closes softly behind you, not to trap you, but to keep the wind from rattling old frames. You smile without performing it. You are ready for what comes next because you are ready to be who you are. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. You step into a quieter corridor of your life where choices echo longer than footsteps. The clock that threatened you minutes ago now ticks like a metronome, guiding your breath instead of stealing it. What tried to chase you becomes a companion walking behind at a respectful distance. A clerk pushes open a door and the hinges stop squealing, as if even the metal learned your steadiness. The fluorescent light softens on your skin, as though it remembers sunlight. The air carries a faint scent of paper and lemon polish, and it does not overpower the perfume of your resolve. Archangel Michael says a heart aligned with truth registers on every instrument in heaven like a steady note. He says your steadiness is noticed before your words, the way dawn announces itself with light before birds begin. He says the highest courtroom is the one where your conscience sits as judge, and that court is already in session. You recall the little crumbs of manipulation that once formed a trail through your days. Each crumb looked small, yet together they tried to lead you away from yourself. You turn around now and see how that trail fades when you do not feed it. The woman you trusted moves like a storyline that refuses to evolve. Her folder is the same old plot wearing a fresh cover. Your life has outgrown the genre. You name your new genre, honest courage. Honest courage does not shout or dramatize, it breathes and clarifies. Honest courage loves precision the way a sculptor loves stone. The bailiff inside your spirit calls for order and everything inside you obeys. Thoughts take their seats, emotions stop pacing, and fear puts its hand down. The sound of your own integrity is louder than any gavel. You decide that your memory is a witness who will speak in clean sentences. You will not let it embellish, and you will not let it edit away your kindness. You will not let it erase your own learning in order to look flawless. A quiet strategy forms like ink traveling through water until the whole glass becomes legible. The first part is posture, because bone tells truth before tongue does. The second part is pace, because time follows whoever refuses to rush. You will tell what is necessary and no more, the way a map shows roads without unnecessary decoration. You will mention dates that matter, not feelings that cloud. You will describe actions, not gossip, and everything will become clearer by itself. Archangel Michael says truth has a temperature and you have found it. He says when you hold that warmth in your chest, cold words cannot freeze you. He says that warmth becomes a lantern others recognize even if they pretend to squint. The woman opens her folder and the papers try to stand taller than they are. They rattle like leaves when wind pretends to be a storm. Your calm is heavier than her noise. You remember the day you set a boundary and your hands shook afterward. Shaking did not mean you were weak, it meant your muscles were relearning a language. Today your hands speak fluently. In the gallery of your mind, a few old fears still sit with coats on their laps. They look around, unsure whether they missed their turn. You let them stay seated and watch you take yours. Your opening line lands like a soft weight on a wooden table, neither fragile nor aggressive. The grain of the table receives it, as wood receives rain without drama. The room adjusts to your tone. At the edges, you feel the presence of those who knew you when no one else was looking. Their memory of you is unscripted and sincere. Their unseen nod steadies your knees. You refuse to trade dignity for speed. You refuse to trade honesty for conven. You line your words along that eyebrow like soldiers who were trained to defend, not to invade. They stand where they should, not where anxiety would scatter them. You speak of promises made and promises broken without embroidery. You speak of effort and patience without begging for medals. You speak of harm without adopting the voice of harm. Archangel Michael says restraint is a kind of thunder that works without sound. He says people feel it in their ribs even when they pretend not to. He says your restraint today is writing a verdict inside the weather. You sense how stories try to rush endings when fear writes them. You let this story take its true length, which is measured in breaths, not in panic. The seconds that once threatened you now stack into steps you can climb. The woman glances up, measuring your silence. Silence refuses to be measured because it does not audition. It simply sits in the chair of importance and is recognized. You return to the compass you placed on the table at the start. Integrity points north again, as it always does when asked. North is not a direction on a wall, north is the unbroken line through your spine. You remember something tender, the letter you never sent because you chose to let the truth do its work without your supervision. That choice did not make you passive, it made you precise. You learned that patience is the hand that holds the scalpel steady. Evidence is presented, and inside your spirit another kind of evidence rises. It is the inventory of your ordinary goodness when no one filmed you. It is the receipt for your efforts that heaven keeps. Your jaw softens because clenched truth looks like anger even when it is not. Your shoulders lower because lifted truth does not need to puff itself up. Your eyes clear because focused truth sees through fog. Archangel Michael says the point is not to win at their game but to stop playing a game with your own soul. He says your soul wants the simple win of alignment. He says alignment is the only verdict that prints itself on your future. You offer dates, names, and a summary of what actually happened. You offer the tone of someone who does not have a performance to maintain. You offer yourself as you are, not as a polished product. The woman's folder now sounds like a raincoat after the storm has passed. The drops fall off and cannot find purchase. The coat is still a coat, but the weather is on your side. You allow compassion to sit in the room without confusing it with permission. Compassion does not mean an unlocked door, it means a clear view through the glass. You can be kind and closed at the same time. You set another boundary, and this one arrives quietly like a new key in an old lock. The tumblers align and the door opens to a room called after. After is where you build. In after, furniture is chosen for sturdiness, not applause. In after, conversations are short, clean, and on the record of your own peace. In after, sleep returns like a friend who kept your spare key. Archangel Michael says your voice learned to carry itself today. He says it will not need to be carried again. He says what tried to silence you taught your sound its own strength. You feel gratitude for your earlier self who survived unskillful days without dramatic rescues. That person used ordinary tools, breath, pause, a glass of water, a walk around the block. That person brought you to this doorstep. Gratitude does not erase consequences, but it sweetens the air for honest repair. You will repair what is yours to repair and release what is not. Release is the quietest victory and the truest one. The hour ends and nothing collapses. The door opens and no alarms ring. You walk back into daylight resembling the person you promised yourself you would be. Outside, the season has not changed, but your weather has. Your skin feels like a roof that does not leak. Your mind feels like a room with windows that actually open. You notice how your feet choose the ground now. They no longer tiptoe around other storms. They step through puddles rather than pitching tents in them. Archangel Michael says to keep 3 practices like coins in your pocket. The first coin is breath that you can hear, because audible breath anchors dignity. The second coin is truth spoken in small complete sentences, because fragments invite confusion. The third coin is a daily moment where you do not explain yourself to anyone. That moment becomes a fence line that needs no sign. It tells the world your land has an owner and the owner is awake. You imagine the folder returning to a drawer where it belongs. Drawers are for storage, not for dominion. Paper can record but it cannot reign. The woman you trusted still has a life beyond this day. She will return to rooms where she is just a person again. You wish her clarity without permitting her chaos. This wish is not softness, it is competence. Competence is eyesight for the soul. Competence keeps your hands on your own steering wheel. Archangel Michael says victory today does not need a trumpet. He says your peace is the music and it will play on a loop. He says people will notice but may not know what they are noticing. On the walk home, you pass a mirror and your reflection does not flinch. Your eyebrows look like they were drawn by a steady hand. Your mouth looks like a place where honesty is comfortable living. You begin a small ritual to seal the day. You put one hand over your heart and one on your belly and say your full name once. Then you say, out loud, that you choose truth and it chose you back. This ritual becomes a nightly clasp that keeps your necklace of courage from falling off while you sleep. You will wear that necklace tomorrow without thinking. Others will see it even if you tuck it under your shirt. Archangel Michael says the countdown was never a threat, it was a bell for a beginning. He says beginnings sometimes arrive dressed like endings to test your discernment. He says you passed that test by staying still in your center. Back at your table, you open a notebook and write 3 lines. The first line lists what you learned about yourself today. The second line names a small kindness you will give yourself tomorrow. The third line names a boundary you will keep without explanation. Explanations used to be your armor, now the boundary is the armor. Your life feels lighter when it weighs less on other people's approval. A new door appears in your understanding labeled agreements. You step through and see the contracts you make with yourself. The first contract says you will not force what asks to be released. The second contract says you will not shrink to make room for someone else's performance. The third contract says your voice belongs to your breath, not to their folder. These signatures are in your own ink. Archangel Michael says people will try to borrow your clarity like a coat. He says you can lend warmth without giving up your weather. He says your weather matters. You store a memory from today where you can reach it swiftly, that moment when the room turned level again. Level rooms make fair decisions. Level hearts make clear roads. The woman's footsteps fade behind you and your footsteps choose a different music. The city sounds become background to the orchestra of your calm. Even the traffic aligns with your timing. You return to your space and open the blinds. The light enters like a respectful guest who brought food. You eat and you do not narrate your worth while chewing. In the evening, your phone buzzes with a message that once would have hooked you. It loses its hook because your sea has changed. The same bait floats uselessly when the fish no longer swim there. Archangel Michael says absence of chaos is not emptiness. It is room for craft. He says you will fill this room with work that outlives rumor. He says rumor ages quickly, but craft matures. You outline a week where your energy goes to building and not to defending. You place rest on the calendar like a serious appointment. You protect the appointment as if your future depends on it, because it does. At night, your sleep arrives without negotiation. Dreams come without the usual chase scenes. A soft quiet holds everything like a bowl. Morning meets you with clean, unhurried light. Your first breath of the day does not audition for safety, it knows it already belongs. Your first thought does not scramble for defense, it looks forward. Archangel Michael says the courtroom in your life will exist whenever truth is contested. He says you can walk into that room again without dread because you know the furniture now. He says the chair you sit in fits you. You keep your 3 coins and your 3 contracts. You carry your compass and your lantern warmth. You let the path draw itself under your steps like yesterday's thin golden line, now thicker, now sure. The season will cycle and other papers may be waved at you. Waving does not make them wind. You will return to your exactness and let the breeze die by itself. Today's cadence becomes tomorrow's normal. Your voice has found its level and it is easy to hear. Your life reads itself aloud in sentences that end cleanly. The story that began with countdown now moves with count on. Count on breath, count on truth, count on the simple disciplines that refuse to desert you. Count on the quiet that does not perform. Archangel Michael says your courage will be contagious in rooms that expected your collapse. He says some will borrow it to stand up in their own matters. He says that is how light works. You close your notebook and notice your own handwriting looks more legible. Letters sit on the line instead of trying to fly off it. The margin is generous because you no longer write to the edge of panic. The woman you trusted remains part of your past and not your purpose. Your purpose feels like a horizon you can walk toward without hurry. The horizon holds because you hold. You step outside again and the air tastes like permission. The sun sits on your shoulder like a small assured weight. The world looks unchanged and your way of walking changes everything. You wake to a morning that doesn't audition for perfection, it just shows up loyal to its light. The kettle hums, a small engine of ordinary grace, and your hands learn again the choreography of simple care. The mirror returns your gaze without judgment, as if it, too, has been trained by yesterday's truth. You redraw your day like a map that favors clear roads. There are fewer detours into people's weather and more paths through your own sky. The old impulse to explain yourself slows to a respectful halt at the new boundary line. Archangel Michael says a life aligned to truth becomes audible even in silence. He says each decision now is a bell that rings through your corridors. He says bells don't ask to be believed, they simply sound. You file practical steps the way you file cherished photographs, carefully, in order, where you can find them. First, you save copies of what matters, receipts of kindness, records of effort, dates that anchor the story in the ground. Second, you craft clean statements about events without seasoning them in blame. Third, you build a small circle of counsel, one honest friend, one wise elder, one professional who knows the terrain. 3 voices are enough to triangulate truth without drowning it. When more are needed, they will be invited, not assumed. You walk through your home and notice how the furniture has taken on a quieter posture. Maybe nothing moved, yet everything settled. The room has learned from you. You answer texts later and with less hurry. Urgency has to show credentials at the door now. If urgency is authentic, it enters. If it's theater, it disperses on the porch. On your desk, you place a single sheet titled, "What is mine, what is not?" Under "Mine," you list your choices, your tone, your care for detail. Under "Not," you place other people's interpretations, their deadlines for your emotions, and the choreography they try to assign your steps. The paper doesn't change the world, but it changes your stance in it. Stance, more than speech, writes the first draft of peace. Your stance says, "I am not available for distortion." You rehearse 3 lines that became pillars yesterday. I remember clearly. Here is the sequence of events. This is where I place my boundary. These lines fit your mouth like they were molded there from the beginning. You make a gently radical choice. You will celebrate the smallest evidence of your steadiness. You celebrate when you choose silence over spirals. You celebrate when you move your shoulders before they lock. Archangel Michael says celebration is not noise, it's gratitude wearing shoes. He says gratitude keeps doors oiled, so they open on time. He says some victories look like calm kitchens. You picture the woman you trusted as a traveler who took a wrong road. Your compassion recognizes her human feet and still does not give them your keys. Love can wave. Love doesn't always welcome. In the afternoon, you tidy your digital life the way you tidied your room. Old threads that keep pulling at the edges are archived. Your inbox learns the difference between signal and siren. You craft a personal evidence of goodness folder, not to prove yourself to doubters, but to remember yourself on difficult days. In it you keep kind notes others sent, modest milestones you met, and a few camera roll moments that glow with quiet dignity. This folder is the antidote to any paper that tries to flatten you. You redraw your social circles with a pencil that has an eraser. Some lines thicken because they've earned it. Some lines lighten because they've used up their chance to be heavy. The evening finds you in a chair by a window, holding a book you actually want to read. Attention is a sanctuary and you reclaim it one page at a time. Each paragraph steadies the furniture of your mind. You allow yourself to wonder about a future unpressured by defense. Wonder is not naive, it is architecture made of air and intention. Plans will land later, wonder builds the runway. You keep a list titled Maintenance of Peace. It is simple: water, sunlight, movement, honest conversation, rest, purpose, art, laughter, and intervals of gladly doing nothing. Peace is a garden requiring ordinary, reliable weather. In a moment of reflection, you revisit the courtroom inside you. It is smaller now, less dramatic in its lighting. The chairs are fewer, the echoes quieter, the law more humane. You rename the judge on the bench from perfection to integrity. Perfection treats you like a defendant, integrity treats you like a citizen. Under integrity, mistakes are tuition, not crimes. You write a note you'll keep in your phone for the next time conflict knocks at 2 a.m. Do not argue with shadows. Turn on a light. Beside it, you add 3 tiny lights you trust: breath, water, sleep. Your phone vibrates with news from the outer world. The world, faithful to its habits, keeps mixing emergencies with entertainment. You decide to classify most of it as weather, notable, but not sovereign. The next day, you walk a street you've walked 100 times, and it greets you with new honesty. The bakery's window fogs with warm breath, the crosswalk blinks its steady instruction, a child laughs in an untranslatable language of joy. The world seems to be auditioning for your attention, you cast only what serves. Neighbors nod, the sky lowers its blue like a blessing, and your feet make a covenant with the pavement. Pace becomes prayer without a single verse. Consistency becomes your quiet charisma. Archangel Michael says do not underestimate the politics of your schedule. He says where you put your hours is a vote. He says you have started voting for yourself without apologizing. The woman and her folder drift to the outer rings of your awareness. You no longer orbit their gravity. You carry your own light source, and light sources travel on their own terms. On your calendar, you set a recurring reminder called Back to Center. It asks no questions and makes no accusations, it simply invites. You accept the invitation with a breath, a stretch, and a return to exactness. At work, you discover the ease of boundaries spoken once and kept. You no longer sell discounts on your availability. Your no now sounds like oak. Emails grow shorter, kinder, and more precise. Meetings become less performative and more elemental. You schedule thought the way you schedule tasks, because thinking is labor and deserves time. You experiment with the art of non-engagement. Not the icy refusal born of contempt, but the warm, clear refusal born of alignment. Your refusal says, I keep my energy for building. You review your archives and carefully decide what to let go of. Letting go is not amnesia, it is curation. Your story is a museum where not every artifact deserves a display. Night drops its curtain and you welcome the darkness without dread. Darkness, you realize, is the stage where rest performs its quiet play. You leave the audience and take your place in the cast of sleepers. In dreams, your voice walks past old barricades as if they were tape on the ground after the event has ended. Your subconscious straightens picture frames you didn't know were crooked. You wake to find the room already tidy. Another morning, another bell of ordinary grace rings inside your ribs. You return to your 3 coins, breath, complete sentences, the daily moment of no explanation, and they still spend well. Value that remains stable is wealth. You practice saying your boundary aloud in empty rooms, so it fits your voice when the room is full. Practice makes dignity intuitive. Intuition makes response timely. A letter arrives from a place that once felt like danger. You open it with calm hands. Inside, the sentences are shorter than the fear they used to generate. You answer with clarity that is neither sharp nor soft, it is weight-bearing. Weight-bearing language holds roofs up and lets people move freely underneath. You sign your name without flinch or flourish. Archangel Michael says your name has learned to stand up in ink. He says that's how names become signatures and signatures become oaths. He says oaths keep rooms upright. You find yourself less fascinated with conflict, as if the theater finally lost its novelty. Peace is not a plot twist, it is the script you prefer. People who love you can tell the difference in your eyes. A friend asks you how you're doing and you answer without editing your soul. Honesty fits in small cups. You sip together without spilling. On a quiet Sunday, you audit your inputs, what you watch, read, and overhear. You prune the vines that tangle your attention. The light in your room changes quality, because attention is the window treatment of the mind. You draft a small document for yourself titled Future Disputes, Standard Operating Procedure. It includes, get oriented, confirm facts, set scope, speak once clearly, avoid repetition, document respectfully, and exit when the assignment of chaos reaches your door. You keep it where you can find it when adrenaline tries to hide your wisdom. You take a walk with someone who has earned your interior mile. The conversation is a river with no dams. You leave the path feeling irrigated, not flooded. In a moment of generous lucidity, you decide not to be the correction for everyone's storyline. You will repair what is yours and release what is theirs to learn. You are not a universal solvent, you are a person. Weeks pass with the honest accumulation of small days. You're nervous. You choose not to eat today. Archangel Michael says mercy does not require proximity. He says blessing does not require access. He says you can wish someone well while protecting your well. You build a modest ritual around endings, so they don't knot themselves into your sleep. You write one sentence of closure in a notebook, what you learned, what you released, and what you will carry. Then you close the cover like a soft door. Work becomes a place where craft outruns drama. Your output improves not because you try harder, but because you leak less. Leakage once took more energy than labor, now labor gets all of it. You compare your calendar from a year ago to now. The difference looks like a garden reclaimed from weeds. The same plot, a different harvest. Someone new enters your orbit, curious and gentle. You enjoy the luxury of letting kindness audition for consistency before awarding it trust. Trust becomes a slow ceremony again, which is the only ceremony it ever deserved. The day arrives when you revisit the courthouse for an administrative detail. The building looks smaller. You smile at the trick of perspective that truth plays on architecture. Inside, the hallways are familiar, but your feet are not. Your gait has become sovereign. Chairs that once felt like interrogations feel like furniture. You handle the paperwork with ease, using the muscles that practice built. The clerk meets your steadiness and mirrors it. Strangers often do, when given the chance. Outside, the city stretches like a cat waking up, unhurried, sure of itself. You have learned that the world is loudest when you haven't decided your own volume. You've chosen yours, and it suits your rooms. You go home and water plants that once struggled under irregular light. Their leaves have learned your steadiness too. Even the soil seems less thirsty. Night returns with its faithful dark and you dim the lamps, not to fight the world, but to rest for it. Rest is an act of preparation, not of retreat. Tomorrow deserves a whole person, not a residue. On a random Tuesday, you open the Evidence of Goodness folder and add a new entry, a small message from someone who felt seen by your patience. The folder is not a trophy case, it is a pantry. On colder days, you'll find nourishment here. You catch yourself laughing at something silly and realize the sound is cleaner than before. Laughter that isn't performing for permission has a different echo. It returns to you instead of draining you. Archangel Michael says the lesson has moved from your head to your bones. He says bone-deep truths don't need defending, they need living. He says you are already living them. And when, inevitably, new conflicts knock like weather on windows, you won't pretend the storm isn't real. You will check the locks, secure the shutters of your attention, and boil water for tea. You will be both shelter and citizen. The woman and her folder become a chapter with a title, not the title of the book. You keep the book. You keep writing. You tell your future quietly, we will be led by clarity, not fear. We will answer with accuracy, not dramatics. We will choose dignity over speed every time we remember, and we will remember more often now. On the wall above your desk, you place a small card with 7 words, "What is true will remain, walk accordingly." You read it when you enter and when you leave. It keeps the doorway honest. Days gather like notes in a song that no longer tries to impress. The melody is serviceable and strong. Your life loves that kind of music. You have learned something indispensably simple, your voice is a home. You keep it swept, you light it in the evening, and you welcome only what cares for its furniture. Everything else waits politely outside and often wanders away. And so you continue, not because a countdown threatens, but because cadence carries. The cadence is yours. The steps are yours. The way forward is yours.